And along these same lines, we've been speaking quite a bit about racial profiling here in New York City, racial tensions with regard to policing here in New York City. And this is an issue that exists all across the country. But because of the specifics of the Eric Garner killing and the reaction that has been seen from the mayor and from NYPD and with stop and frisk and so on and so forth, there has been a lot of specific discussion about the New York City Police Department. And interestingly enough, a new profile of a number of African-American police officers, both retired and currently active in the NYPD, shows that they feel threatened by their fellow officers when they are walking around the city off duty. And Reuters interviewed 25 such African-American officers, all male officers from NYPD, 15 retired, 10 who are currently serving, all but one, 24 out of 25, made clear that when off duty and out of uniform, they had been victims, or at least they felt as though they had been victims of racial profiling, which refers to using race or ethnicity as a grounds for suspecting someone may have committed a crime. The officer said this included being pulled over for no reason, having their head slammed against their cars, getting guns brandished in their faces, being thrown into prison vans, experiencing stop and frisks while shopping, and the majority of officers said that they had been pulled over multiple times while driving. 5 out of the 25 had guns pulled on them. One example, Desmond Blaze, retired 2 years ago as a sergeant in the 41st Precinct in the Bronx, said he was once stopped while taking a jog in jogging gear through Brooklyn's upmarket Prospect Park. Quote, "I had my ID on me, so it didn't escalate. But what's suspicious about a jogger jogging in jogging clothes?" What can we make of this? You could argue, listen, if this was just police stopping these African-American off-duty officers because at the time there were just more African-American suspects for crimes that had been committed in the area, well, you could make that argument, but it's not really a very good one because it would also just show that we have all sorts of disproportionate application of suspicion because suspect does not mean criminal or perpetrator. So that to me is not a very strong argument. I would be very interested in seeing what happens when internally complaints are submitted by these off-duty officers. Many of them said they never even submitted complaints internally, saying that they felt they had been unfairly profiled based on race because they feared retribution, which in and of itself is a huge problem. And like I said, New York City is not the only place that we have this type of concern around race-based policing. It just so happens that there's a lot of attention on the New York City Police Department right now. Things are very tense here. I always am kind of aware of what interactions do I see police engaged in. I happen to have not even said a single word, had a single word of exchange with any police officer here in the city since I moved here, with the exception of once, I believe, when there was a road closure. But in terms of what I observe others doing in their interactions with police, it is clear that individuals, particularly racial minorities, feel the tension that is taking place right now in the city. And again, this is because of a very small percentage of police officers. As we talked about, something like 5% of NYPD officers are connected to 40% of resisting arrest cases. And when we see all but one police officer say that when off duty as an African-American male in New York City, off-duty police officer, they felt they had been unfairly targeted based on their race, we have to be paying attention to this.